The planet was quiet, almost unnaturally so. Ethan stood on the edge of the rocky plateau, staring at the fortress that rose from the ground like the ribcage of some giant, long-dead creature. The wind carried a faint hum as if the planet itself were holding its breath. He adjusted his helmet, the visor reflecting the jagged spires ahead. The legends of this place had reached the outer colonies long ago. Whispers of a warrior so deadly that entire fleets had vanished before her. For 200 years she had slept, blinded by an ancient weapon that drained her vision, and yet her presence lingered like a shadow across the galaxy. Ethan's team hovered behind him in their small scout crafts, debating whether to enter. Most were uneasy. The warrior's fortress was sealed, protected by technology no one fully understood. Ancient defenses could still be active. "We shouldn't go in," one of the scouts said, his voice tight with fear. "We don't even know what we'll face." Ethan shook his head. He had always been the one to take risks others avoided. Something about this place called to him, a quiet insistence that he alone could hear. "Legends aren't just stories," he said. "If she's really here, then I need to see for myself. I need to know if humanity still has a place in the galaxy when legends like hers exist." The team hesitated, but Ethan didn't wait for approval. He stepped forward, his boots crunching on the dusty surface of the plateau. The fortress gates were enormous, carved from black stone that absorbed the light around it. Inside, the air was cooler, heavier, as if it carried the weight of centuries. In the center of the main hall, embedded in a pedestal, lay the warrior's blade. It shimmered faintly, almost alive, as though it had been waiting for someone to touch it. Ethan approached slowly. Every instinct screamed caution, but he could not stop. The stories had called her the deadliest warrior in the galaxy, a master of combat unmatched by any living being. And now here she was, slumbering, unseen, waiting. He reached out, fingertips brushing the hilt of the blade. A shock ran through him, not painful, but electrifying. The room seemed to shift, the air vibrating with a presence that was impossible to ignore. And then he heard it, a voice, smooth, confident, full of centuries of experience. "Missed me?" Ethan froze. He had expected danger, perhaps a trap, maybe even some automated defense system, but not this. The voice was alive, aware. It carried authority, elegance, and something strangely human. From the shadows, a figure began to stir. She moved slowly at first, her armor clinking softly, as if testing the ground beneath her feet. She was tall, impossibly precise in her movements, yet there was a fragility to her stance. Her eyes, though blinded, seemed to see Ethan's very soul. She paused, tilting her head. "You touched my blade," she said. "Do you know what that means?" I think so," Ethan stammered. "I mean, I wanted to see if the legends were true." A low laugh escaped her. It was soft, almost playful, but it carried the weight of 2 centuries of survival. "Legends?" she repeated. "Perhaps. Or perhaps humans simply like to find trouble where none should exist." Ethan swallowed. His mind raced. The stories had never described her voice, only her actions. And yet here she was, speaking directly to him. Aware, alive, dangerous. He realized then that he was not just standing before a weapon. He was standing before a living legend, a being who had survived battles no human could even imagine. Before Ethan could respond, the fortress shuddered. A distant roar echoed through the halls, followed by the sound of engines and alien voices. The faction that had been watching the planet had finally arrived. They sought the warrior's blade, hoping to claim her power for themselves. The legends of the deadliest warrior were not just stories, they were a threat, and they were coming to seize her. The warrior moved with sudden swiftness, her blindness not a hindrance but a new kind of awareness. She could sense the alien intruders, their positions, their intent. "Stay close," she commanded, and Ethan felt the weight of her authority settle over him. He obeyed, heart pounding. They moved through the fortress like shadows, the warrior's steps silent, calculated. Every corner held potential danger. Every corridor could hide a trap. Ethan followed, relying on instincts he had honed over years in the field. Yet he knew he could never match her precision. Still, she did not dismiss him. Instead, she guided him, using his human unpredictability to complement her centuries of strategy. The aliens struck first, crashing through the outer gates with weapons designed to tear through metal and stone. The warrior met them without hesitation. Her blade sang through the air, precise, lethal. Every movement was a dance of destruction, yet she did not see Ethan. She felt him instead, his presence beside her, human courage burning brightly even against overwhelming odds. Ethan improvised. Using debris, shadows, and quick thinking, he managed to distract the alien forces, giving the warrior openings she might not have expected. He marveled at her skill, the way she anticipated moves centuries old yet adapted to his sudden, unpredictable maneuvers. He began to understand why humans, small and fragile as they were, had survived in a galaxy that often underestimated them. By the time the battle ended, the alien forces had retreated, leaving the fortress in relative silence. The warrior stood victorious, yet she paused, turning to Ethan. "You have courage," she said. "I did not expect it from one so fragile." Ethan laughed, tension finally breaking. "Fragile? Maybe. But humans have a way of surviving things that legends don't even consider." For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. The warrior, centuries old and still deadly, and Ethan, a single human who had dared to touch a legend and survive. Something shifted in that silent understanding. She had been asleep for 200 years, blinded to the galaxy. Yet here was a human who had awakened more than just her senses. He had awakened a connection, a trust, and perhaps something more. The fortress, though scarred from the battle, held secrets yet untold. Ancient weapons, hidden chambers, and the knowledge of wars long past waited within its walls. The warrior moved toward one of the inner halls, her movements deliberate, cautious. Ethan followed, knowing that the story was far from over. He had touched a legend, faced an impossible battle, and survived. And now he realized he was part of something much larger than himself. The warrior, deadly and precise, was no longer just a story of the past. She had returned, and with her, a challenge and perhaps a chance for humanity to prove that courage, intelligence, and unpredictability could still shape the course of the galaxy. As they disappeared deeper into the fortress, Ethan felt a mixture of awe, fear, and excitement. This was only the beginning. The deadliest warrior had awoken, and a human had dared to touch her blade. And in that moment, the galaxy itself seemed to pause, waiting to see what would happen next. The fortress was quieter now, though the echoes of the recent battle still lingered like whispers in the walls. Ethan moved carefully, following the warrior through corridors carved from black stone. She walked with confidence, yet her hand occasionally brushed the walls as if sensing them, a reminder that centuries of blindness had changed how she experienced the world. The blade she had slept with for 200 years hung at her side, its shimmer a constant living presence. Ethan could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. Every step he took seemed small compared to the warrior's centuries of experience. Yet she had accepted him as a companion, a human whose unpredictable choices could complement her unmatched skill. The aliens had retreated for now, but Ethan knew they would return, stronger and more prepared. They entered a chamber that seemed untouched by time. Dust hung in the air and broken banners of long-forgotten armies draped the walls. In the center, a holographic map flickered to life, projecting constellations, battlefields, and star systems Ethan had never seen. The warrior's fingers traced the glowing lines, moving with precision. "These are the campaigns I fought," she said. "The victories, the losses, every decision recorded. But much of it has been lost except what this map preserves." Ethan stepped closer, studying the projections. This knowledge, it could change everything. Humans could learn from this, adapt it to survive. He realized that her battles were more than stories, they were lessons, strategies honed over centuries, surviving the galaxy's deadliest conflicts. The warrior paused, her hand hovering over a projection. "Humans are fragile. You rely on instincts that often fail. Yet somehow you survived today. You saw openings I could not, and you made choices I would never have considered. That is unusual." Ethan shrugged. "We don't always plan perfectly. Sometimes we just act, and somehow it works." A low hum began vibrating through the chamber. Ethan froze. The alien faction had returned, faster and more organized this time. Their ships hovered above the fortress, weapons primed, scanning for life. "They're coming back," Ethan said quietly. The warrior's head tilted. "Then we prepare. Stand where I can sense you. Follow my lead and do not hesitate. You are human, yes, but today your courage will matter as much as any blade." The alien struck with precision. Energy beams tore through the outer walls, sending fragments of stone crashing into the floor. The warrior moved first, her steps silent, her blade cutting through the first wave with lethal grace. Every swing, every strike was exact, honed by centuries of combat. Ethan followed, using debris as cover, luring enemies into traps she might not have considered. His unpredictability created openings for her to exploit. Despite her blindness, she fought as if the galaxy itself whispered its secrets to her. Ethan watched in awe, noting how she adapted to the chaos, her senses attuned to vibrations, sounds, and the faintest shifts in the air. He realized that her skill was not just physical, it was instinct, strategy, and the wisdom of ages. During a brief lull in the battle, the warrior turned to him. "You are brave, human." "I did not expect it. Most would have fled long ago." Ethan grinned, dodging a stray blast. "Most humans die before they even get close. I like to take chances." She nodded once, a faint sound like approval. Then the battle resumed. The aliens pressed harder, using coordinated tactics that tested both their skills. Ethan improvised traps, detonating energy charges to collapse corridors, forcing the aliens into predictable paths. The warrior adjusted instantly, cutting down enemies with precise, elegant motions. The synergy between them was growing. Human unpredictability and centuries of lethal skill combining into something unstoppable. As the battle reached its peak, the warrior paused, sensing something unusual. "Ethan, stay back." He hesitated, then watched as she raised her blade, energy surging through it. A pulse of light erupted, temporarily blinding the alien sensors and their forces. In that moment, she struck with unmatched speed, dismantling the alien ranks. Ethan moved into support, using his small, nimble frame to distract any remaining foes. Together, they became a force that no alien could anticipate. The last of the invaders fled, their ships retreating into the distance. The fortress was scarred, smoke curling from shattered walls, but the battle was won. Ethan and the warrior stood amidst the debris, breathing heavily, aware that this victory was only temporary. The warrior lowered her blade, her voice calm, almost thoughtful. "I see now. Humans are not weak. You are small, yes, fragile in appearance, but you possess something the galaxy often forgets: courage, creativity, and unpredictability. These are weapons just as powerful as any blade." Ethan stepped closer, still catching his breath. "We survive because we have to, and sometimes because we dare to face things that others fear." She seemed to consider this, tilting her head. "You have reminded me of something I forgot. That even in darkness, even after centuries of waiting, life can surprise and teach." For the first time since awakening, she paused and touched Ethan's shoulder lightly, a gesture of trust and recognition. "I cannot see fully yet, but I feel your presence. You are no ordinary human. You may have awakened more than just my body today. Perhaps you have awakened a part of me I thought lost forever." Ethan smiled, a mixture of relief and respect. "We make a good team. Legends and humans, seems like the galaxy isn't ready for what comes next." She laughed softly, a sound both dangerous and warm. "Perhaps not. But if this is what it means to fight beside a human, I think I might enjoy it." Together, they explored deeper into the fortress, discovering hidden archives, weapon caches, and ancient technology that had survived the centuries. The warrior's senses slowly began to adjust, partially restoring her vision as she absorbed energy from her blade and surroundings. She could now see shapes, lights, and the faint outlines of objects. Though the human's presence remained clearer than anything else, Ethan watched her adapt, realizing that her awakening was more than physical. She was learning to trust, to rely on another being in a way she had not in 200 years. He had touched her blade, yes, but he had also touched something deeper: her ability to connect, to see humans not as weak creatures but as beings capable of courage and inspiration. Outside the fortress, the stars twinkled against the darkness of space. The alien faction had retreated, but their threat remained. Yet Ethan and the warrior felt a strange sense of hope. The galaxy had seen the deadliest warrior for 200 years, and now she had returned. Not alone, but alongside a human who had proven that courage could rival centuries of experience. In the quiet aftermath, the warrior handed Ethan the blade. It felt heavier than any human weapon he had ever held, yet familiar in a way that made his heart race. "This is not a gift," she said. "It is a recognition. You have earned it by surviving today, by daring to act when others would falter." Ethan grasped it, feeling the pulse of energy coursing through the weapon, a connection between them that was both literal and symbolic. He realized that their partnership was more than necessity. It was a meeting of skill, courage, and understanding that bridged centuries and species. The warrior stepped back, finally lifting her gaze fully, her vision adjusting to the modern galaxy. She looked at Ethan, seeing him clearly now, yet somehow still sensing the depth of his courage. "I see you," she said softly, and in that simple acknowledgement lay the weight of centuries. "And I think I might just like this human way of fighting." Ethan smiled, feeling the enormity of the moment. The deadliest warrior had awakened, the aliens had been defeated, and a human had proven that bravery, ingenuity, and determination could match the skill of legends. As they stood together in the ruined fortress, the stars above them stretching into infinity, Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. The warrior had returned, but she had returned changed, and so had he. Together they would face the galaxy, not as predator and prey, not as legend and human, but as equals, a force that neither time nor enemy could easily defeat. The galaxy waited, unaware that a human had touched a legend and survived. And in that moment it seemed that even legends could learn from humanity. The stars flickered. The wind carried the faint hum of ancient power, and the warrior whispered once more, her voice calm yet charged with centuries of life. "Missed me?" Ethan laughed quietly. "Not anymore." And with that they turned toward the horizon, ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store together.